parents? Are you talking about like 200 people
Oh, plus
that
their
I'm
parents?
having to coordinate?
Wow.
Yeah, because you have to engage their parents because of that. Yeah.
Wow.
I think we are set. We can
All right.
to begin.
All right. Hi, everyone. So, you're welcome to today's session on the Yard Jord interview. And today we have with us Dr. Teniola Ogunjobi. Yeah. Okay, she is a Georgian native and Nigerian. And she is influential in areas of conflict management, intercultural alternative dispute resolution, nonprofit communication, community engagement, volunteer management, intercultural education, grassroots development, business management, and communications and journalism. Dr. Ogunjobi earned a Bachelor's of Art degree in journalism, English from Harvard University, a Master of Art degree in intercultural relations from the University of the Pacific, and a Doctor of Philosophy degree in international conflict management from Kennesaw State University. She is the founder of Intercultural Communities Project. Wow. A nonprofit organization working to bridge, build, and sustain strong intercultural communities with youth and adults. She is a communication, culture, and conflict consultant, a nonprofit director, an interculturalist, researcher, writer, and change agent. So as the development director for CMG Global Foundation, she's designing, implementing, and executing the foundation's fundraising, donor relations, and development infrastructure for several projects based in Nigeria. This year, she's managing Girls Going Global Ghana 100 initiative, which is a leadership, identity, and global exposure experience designed for high school girls and college girls between the age of 13 to 22, culminating in a 10 days cultural immersion and leadership experience in Ghana. Wow, that's such an amazing thing she's doing there. Dr. Teni, could you say Dr. Teniola?
Thank you for having me.
Wow.
Uh, Hannah.
Wow, wow, wow. I just love a person. Like, yeah, it's so cool. All right, let's go straight to today's, questions because I've read the
Mhm.
article and yeah, it really interests me. So I will just ask you first that what really inspired you to research voluntary repatriation? Also today, before I forget, we'll be talking on an article NGO's role in voluntary repatriation of the African diaspora. So now, Dr. Teniola, what inspired you to research voluntary repatriation of the African diaspora, and how does it really connect to your work with intercultural communities?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. So I would say that the inspiration really came from like personal and professional experience. And so one, I am a part of the African diaspora. I was born and raised in like the South of America, so in Georgia. And I also am a Nigerian and I have, ties there and I have ties here. And so I'm literally that African American and I'm, of the diaspora. And so, thinking through kind of the work that I also am doing in relation to my social impact nonprofit work, I was inspired to think through that opportunity or that type of like concept because I was in the Peace Corps. So Peace Corps is like this international volunteer organization, and they do work in underdeveloped, developing worlds, and they offer skilled men and women to provide services in developing worlds. So I served in Mali and Senegal, West Africa. And so I understood that whole, being a volunteer, getting that cultural exchange piece going, and also being able to support with a targeted skill. I was in like the community economic development sector. And so I understood it from that, role. And that's the NGO, the Peace Corps is NGO. And so I also, yeah, I just thought through like, okay, it would make a lot of sense if the people who are in the diaspora, like who are of these cultures, just that have that direct tie to these cultures, from their ancestry, to be able to provide direct support to these cultures themselves, as opposed to it being people from all other types of countries or all types of diasporas that are supporting Africa. So just in plain English, there was a lot of white people serving Black and brown people. There were a lot of non-Africans serving Africa as, in these NGO roles. And so I was thinking about, hey, if they could make a program where people, our NGO would facilitate bringing people from the diaspora to that specific continent, to that specific country to provide service, to make some social impact. And I thought about how it could, increase the sustainability of these programs and the work that they're doing, because these people now have skin in the game. They have a dog in the fight, and it wouldn't be necessarily everybody, because not everybody wants, if even though they have that linkage, ancestral linkage, they don't necessarily maybe identify with, let's say, for example, Africa. Not all African Americans identify with Africa, or not all Africans in the diaspora identify with Africa. So maybe it wouldn't be us mandating it, but it would be people being able to volunteer to be put back into those spaces to exchange, to support, to build up that country that they have a direct ancestral linkage to. So that's kind of what that thought, that thinking behind that came about. And so and then you have a bigger conversation that can be had about like migration, and how being able to connect people in the diaspora back to their homeland, how it could really shift the narrative. It could, again, create sustainable change within the origin continent. And I think those things are very valid conversations to be had around colonization and racial violence and structural displacement and slavery. Even like those could be things that could be repaired in those kind of conditions. And even thinking through, just like I said, that big picture of reparations for, African people, African Americans, or African diaspora people. Like those, again, conversations could be had in that exchange, in that context. And so it's stuff like that. So ICP, Intercultural Communities Project, connects to that, because we are really trying to build those stronger intercultural communities, and then thinking about how to create a voluntary repatriation program that allows people to be integrated into cultures that they have ties to, like I said, bloodline ties. And so that's kind of what the work that I'm doing with ICP really is connected to, and how I'm trying to amplify and expand that.
Wow, thank you so much for the response. So, like, you're just trying to, those Africans that are not really in Africa and they're in diaspora, so you're trying to like connect them back to the source. Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
the way in which people from the continent, support, build, help to evolve the continent of Africa will make the difference in the future. So like it's not gonna just take people on the continent of Africa to build up Africa. And so I'm thinking like from that perspective, like how do you reconnect the people, the sons and daughters of the continent to be reconnected? Because there's so many people that want to be connected. They just don't have a pathway. They don't have guidance on it. And so a program like this is like, all right, here's a program. We're facilitating it. And I even, have pitched this to Peace Corps. Like, look, you all know how to culturally train, how to help people to adjust into new cultures. And so you literally could be making programming that is relevant and, centers around the African people, African diaspora. And so create that kind of programming, and people could volunteer themselves to be able to be a part of that, and they'll have a clear pathway to being reconnected, to finding ways, whether it be socially, whether it be economically, whether it be just overall. Like I said, so many conversations to be had about it, and I think this would be a nice pathway to that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So, in your article, you highlighted this NGO as key actors in this whole repatriation process. So what unique strength do these NGOs bring compared to like government or intergovernmental organizations? So what strength do NGOs bring into this?
Yeah, so NGOs have a lot of people who are trained in NGO or nonprofit work. They bring a lot of flexibility. They bring that like trust building capacity, that cultural proximity, because I always tell people you got to be in the culture. You got to, be willing to immerse yourself in that culture and identify with it, even as just an observer. So, for example, when I was in Senegal, I'm not Senegalese, but I inserted myself in that space and I made observations. I learned the culture. I learned Wolof. I had to utilize French. I was also in Mali. I had to learn Bambara. I had to learn their language, learn their cultural behaviors, and like what are their traditions. I would do greetings, in Wolof and Bambara, and you have to respect those cultures and learn how to, align with that. And I found that to be so, it's empowering for me to be able to learn how to do it and be able to yield to that and respect it, but also being able to help them understand myself as a Black American, as a Nigerian American, and that Nigerian culture slash American culture that I have kind of intertwined. And so that cultural exchange piece was so important. But so like these NGO actors have that proximity, have that ability. They're at like the community level. They have that access because they're in these underdeveloped or developing worlds. And even if it's not a underdeveloped or developing world, they're in that culture specifically working with that NGO. And so they now are like a lot or are like primed, right, for that role. And so for like if you're looking at the opposite of that, like government actors, they have a lot of red tape. They are politically strained, they have a lot of bureaucratic issues, and so they're not able to just do and move how NGO actors are able to move. And so that's why I think like these NGO team, people in that NGO space would be your more ideal person. They're trained at it. They're willing to be in these spaces to do ongoing work. They have a system of how do you adjust in this culture, and they also like what do you call it, shuttle people in and out. So Peace Corps, for example, every 2 years there's a new volunteer. Every couple of years,
Ah,
there's a new person coming into that role. So they're always generally having with a succession plan, a plan for somebody to be coming in and out. So just for sustainability purposes, I think that's important. It's not perfect, but it definitely is, like I said, that gateway, that pathway to it. The NGOs can act as these implementers, these catalysts, and these partners in this type of programming that then supports like the African diaspora being placed in these contexts. Because I just remember how they were able to channel and integrate me in. Like I wouldn't be talking about this if I hadn't literally experienced an NGO bringing me in as this like support person, as this cultural informant, as this cultural trainer, as this person that is supporting me into this space to be able to make this impact or have this cultural exchange in these intercultural communities, right? So I would just say they have that plus side of being in that NGO space.
all right. So if I get you, these NGOs are like closer to the people and they can like get this work done
Mhm.
faster than governments with the red tape and the bureaucratic processes and all. So NGO, like yeah, so they are really in that space. They are trained for it. They are ready to do it. They have their mind to it. They are like they are there. They are just there for that, right? That's cool. All right. Could you share with us some examples of successful NGO-led initiative that has facilitated this repatriation or cultural reconnection for diaspora community?
Yeah, so there aren't a whole lot. Otherwise, I wouldn't be like talking about like, hey, let's make this a thing. Like, I'm not big. I'm big on not reinventing
Uh,
the wheel, and so it's one of those things like it's not a whole lot. But for example, in the article, I highlight in Ghana the Sankofa Repatriation Assistant Program, and so that's like one strong example where they support diaspora members with residency, housing, land acquisition,
okay.
relocation support, This African Diaspora Resource Center is there, and they're able to provide full service relocation support. They're including like this transition planning and identity reconnection work. And then they have like this Diaspora Affairs office in Ghana, which I actually just went to when I was in Ghana in February. And they are there as this like concierge, if I could just use that phrase, or like this like liaison, this support person that can help you pretty much with anything. Like somebody was coming in that day to ask about getting there. They were trying to get something cut on, like I think their electricity or something like that. So something as basic as your electrical support, like,
Yeah.
hey, we need to get this figured out. How can you help me? So they're really hands-on with that. And they kind of have a system now where it's like, these are normally the frequently asked questions. These are normally the things that people are going to need support with. So let's create a some resources around that, some processes around that. And so their programming is, I think, is one strong example of something like that. And even them being able to be mindful of law laws needing to be passed and things needing to be adjusted to where they're doing this call for the African diaspora to come home and to be in this space, but you have to into. And so Ghana, I've seen, I'm Nigerian and I joke all day about Ghanaians, but it's like they have set up a system that is quite impressive. Like something as simple as they renovated their airport to make it user friendly. They,
Wow.
have set up like they did the year of return in 2019 and they called all these people back, right? It was really connecting a lot of Black Americans to Ghana heavily. Like I took a group in 2019 to Ghana and experienced it. And so they rolled out that carpet of welcome, of that aquaba, right? And they
Wow.
really they've enhanced it to the next level. So again, they are the change amongst our people in the African diaspora. I think more recently they just put passed the law to let any African nations to enter the country without a visa, and so it's just stuff like that great model for other places. And I would even say being strong on both sides, the receiving end and the sending end. Like America knows that it has a large African diaspora population. The European countries know that they have diaspora populations. There could be, them working with the countries in Africa to see how to repatriate. Senegal has a direct line to France because they were colonized by the French. The British colonized Nigeria. So these people who have colonized you have diaspora people there so that they can make like you owe them that much. I always say like you actually owe them. Pay them in that type of
Yeah.
when I talk about reparations, that's a way to do easy, not even easy,
Mhm.
but it's a clear you owe us this, give us this. Like pay for people to come into, African communities and repatriate and do that. Like I think that to me, that's what would be a big ask. Like, and when I'm in these talks about reparations, yes, money, you definitely owe us the money, but also programs that directly benefit us because there's so many
Yeah.
people that I know want to go back to the continent that are of African descent. And there's not formal programs all over the place. And like I said, America owes us, the European countries owe us, everybody owes
Yeah.
Africa. So if you owe
Yeah.
us, pay us in that way. Give us back our people in a formalized, ongoing, sustainable way. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, like programs like that, Ghana is a great example of how they're building, like they're breaking down barriers of entry so that it can be easily accessible for people, specifically African diaspora, to come back to be involved in the social aspect, be involved in the economic aspect, and thrive. And again, build up that country. Like
Yeah.
Nigerians are in the diaspora, big Senegalese,
Everywhere.
Cameroon, they're all over. So come on now, like there's ways to build that funnel, that to build that channel, because you'll see Nigerians go into the diaspora, but when they're retired age, they're wanting to go back, or they're wanting to go back at a certain point. So it's kind of like create that pathway for them, but also like even just people who weren't necessarily born and raised on the continent, for people who are connected by birthright to Africa as a people. So like make that help us with that process. Funnel us through this. Since people joke about go back to Africa. Okay, create a way. Create a
Yeah.
pathway. It's not a joke. It's a real thing that could be done and it could be sustained. So yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, they owe us a lot and they got to pay us back.
They
Yeah.
gotta
I hope
pay
other
us. Which I
African
would.
countries, yeah, I hope other countries will learn from Ghana to make this part really smooth and very important point. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
government, they should really.
NGOs can play a role in I say that as they're facilitators in bringing us over. But the
Mhm.
governments for sure owe us the to do it right now. But there will be a new, political group coming along soon. So to do this long term, and work with the African countries to really operationalize this and bring it into, like activate, make it active. Let's get this going.
All right. Okay, so like what challenges do these NGO face in balancing advocacy, logistics, cultural sensitivity during the repatriation process?
Mm.
Do they face
Um,
challenges?
I would say the biggest challenge is that like repatriation is deeply emotional, and like it's deeply practical at the same time. So while I talk about it like, yeah, let's just make this happen, I'm speaking from someone who is not in that like emotionally traumatized space, or at least I didn't let that hinder me from making this me exchanging with the continent of Africa a real thing. Like I go back regularly. I, have relatives. I've forced my way into reconnecting back to them. It was like I get it. There's no, resources just all laying around, and there's no clear pathway. So before there was a year of return type of thing, I was forcing my way back because I wanted that connection. I had that curiosity in me that made it like a thing of like, no, I'm going to for sure connect. But also remember, I am Nigerian by blood, and so I have direct connection points. Like I did not have to take an ancestry test to know where my people were. It's like, no, my dad left me with a full Yoruba name, and my aunts and uncles and things like that. So I have a direct link to call them up and make that happen, or at least, make those. But I think like making it more accessible to all African diaspora people, and not just people who have a direct, clear tie with the continent because they have one of their parents is Nigerian, or both of their parents is Nigerian, but they maybe were born and raised in that third country or whatever. So I'm pointing out that the challenge is that this being such an emotional and deeply practical kind of thing, the NGOs may be advocating for rights and recognition while also having to help someone figure out housing, paperwork, healthcare, language barriers, community acceptance. And so that's a whole lot. Like they have to deal with a whole lot. Like, how do I deal with the logistical piece of it? Because it's a big logistical piece, right? Just getting your plane ticket, getting adjusted over. All those things are just a part of the process of going back and connecting to the continent. But there's also that emotional piece that you have to deal with. So that's one. And then I would even say cultural sensitivity. Diaspora returnees, like people who are of the diaspora, like I mentioned earlier, Black people are not a monolith. So while me as a African American, I have like I identify like intensely, like I'm passionate about being aligned with the continent, with being aligned with Nigeria in a lot of ways. I will say I have people like me could have the tendency to romanticize it as opposed to someone who's in Nigeria going through the thick of everything that happens on a daily basis or a regular basis, or someone who was at university and had to stop several times because there were so many strikes and things like that. Like they are in it, they understand it. So I never take away that experience, like their perspective and that experience from them, but I also don't allow them to take away the fact that I don't care. I still love it and I still want to be a part of it and I still want to make that connection. It's almost like the optimism in me, right? So that's me. But that's not all Black people. Like you'll have, there's a debate that goes on of, Africans and African Americans or African diaspora people will have sometimes some beef, like they're have conflict about, who identifies as what and who shouldn't get this. And it's really people arguing about small things that take away from it. It's divisive. And so it's taken away from us uniting. That's the whole, keep in mind, the whole goal is to keep us divided. Like, yeah, let the Africans and the African diaspora argue all the time. Let them be, bickering about this small piece. So then while they're bickering, they won't keep asking us for reparations. They won't keep on, bothering us about a repatriation program or something. Like, just let them keep arguing amongst each other. So they love it. The powers that be, the governments and things, they love that aspect. And so I always tell people, like, you will never catch me in like diaspora wars or like wars with amongst Africans and African people. Man, please, like, don't worry about where people got dropped off. Worry about where we were all sourced, like where we all came from. And so think about how that unity piece is really the game changer. The day that we all decide to lock in and really unite, it's over for anybody trying to divide us. So that's kind of what I think about as in like they because they see us as this monolith sometimes, but some of us will be arguing about small things that take away from the big picture. And so we're not on one accord on a lot of things. We're not unified on a lot of things. And so like these NGOs, just taking it back to the point, the NGOs, they really must kind of avoid this romanticizing a return, because I can't make somebody think that it's a romantic idea to go back to the motherland and be amongst your people and walk with the, like, I'm not gonna do that for you. I want you to go and experience it raw and real. And I feel like you have to make that connection and that realness for yourself. Like, what is the thing that connects you? Because I will tell you, when I was living in a hut in Senegal or living in the villages of Ghana, of Mali, it wasn't all fun because I wasn't used to that. It wasn't all like, oh, this is so amazing. But I love the slow life though. I love the element of like slow mornings and people taking time to greet each other, even though you got a meeting you got to go to, you got a class you got to go to. That elder is going to stop you and greet you down for like a couple of minutes.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
to me, I started to take from those traditional pieces that beautiful, like, so I created that own beauty for myself. I'm romanticizing it because I've experienced it. I'm not romanticizing because I heard something or I saw a movie or I went to Ghana one time. This is me like now over like 15 years in going back and forth to the continent, right? And even I stayed on the continent in Nigeria for about 2 years when I was a baby. So I always feel like it's in me. I gotta connect it myself and connect the dots. And so that's me. I'm super passionate and intentional. So again, not everybody's like that. But what I will say is that the NGOs challenge would be not trying to sell this romantic novel to them, essentially, not trying to make it some Nollywood movie. Like help them to understand the practical elements about it, help them be very realistic about how emotional it can be and how challenging it could be, even because my background is in also cultural competence with like international like intercultural relations. It's about how people communicate across culture. And so you'll be in a continent, on a continent or in a country anywhere and have like culture shock. You'll have like, you'll want to go home because you miss home and things like that. That's natural. So making sure people understand that there are real elements of just traveling to a whole nother culture and experiencing it and having to adjust anywhere you go. So don't romanticize it. Be practical about it. Leave open like space for people to experience whatever they experience. If they go to one of the African countries and they're not feeling it, it's 54 African countries. Go to another one. Like don't say you don't like Africa when you only
Yeah,
went to one country.
just
Don't
one.
say
Yeah.
this. So that's what I'm saying. Like, just be open to really expanding their mind on what that could look like, right? And so I will say, like, return can be beautiful for some people, but culture shock, grief, unmet expectations, identity tension, like people have friction within themselves about this. That could be like that's why it's really important to be trauma informed in this practice. So NGOs do give training that's relevant to that. Intercultural competence, teaching people how to communicate across cultures and sustain or at least like integrate as opposed to assimilating. Like I don't just leave my American identity behind just because, all right, I'm Teniola. Like, no, it's like, but just know this is the culture I grew up in. So I bring that culture with me. I integrate it and it blends really well. So people have to understand how to do that in a healthy way, in a balanced way. So yeah, being able to have community-based preparation. So you'll be in community with people and you're preparing them. Like I do these types of trainings too, like with organizations who are going to work with other cultures, but even people who are going to go and experience other culture. That's kind of my goal, like to even build curriculum around that, to build support around that. So someone has a guide and someone has like a community that they can ask those kind of questions to get that support and they can get their cultural informant for that specific culture and then have those experiences. Like, because once it starts being logistically sound for people and they have that resource, people start making people start moving towards it. Like I can convince people. I'm very persuasive. So it's like if you have people who can convince people without, I'm
I
not lying. It's more like I'm intentional with what I'm saying to you. I'm thinking about who you are as a person and I'm trying to adjust my pitch about this thing or this experience to you based off of what matters to you. So
I'm so proud of you for that.
I
Because
try.
yeah, trust me, because not everyone will like, see it as something really great to go back to Africa. They'll be like, "Oh, Africa, what's going on there?" So yeah, NGOs really have to take into this consideration, like to really understand their emotions,
Mhm.
their where they stand with everything going on. Because now, if you tell an average Nigerian that is in diaspora that, oh, come back to Nigeria, Nigeria is, they'll tell you, come on, we see this, we hear this,
I get
they just
it.
start
Listen,
telling
I 100% get that. So that's why you don't like my partner being, I have like the Nigerian, like I have Igbos, I have Yorubas, and even Oguni because my stepdad is. So I'm dealing with
oh,
three different tribe groups. And so from each angle, I get what they're saying. I'm never like, oh, you all are just, like I would never say like you're anti-black or anti-African or like you're in it. So I get why the day-to-day of it can be frustrating in that it you don't see necessarily the beauty. But what I will say is if you go outside of that and live outside of it like the African diaspora people have, you will appreciate it more. Like I'm telling you, that's why you see somebody who goes into the diaspora for 20 years and they return right back to the village that they grew up in. I met a man in
mm,
Senegal who was living in Georgia in the US for 20 years and he was right back in that village when I met him. He's like,
wow.
yeah, I'm tired. I've done my work, my service. Because you won't appreciate it until you're somewhere else. So I always say, like, that's why that the perspective is the way it is. And I get it. So that's why I'm not arguing about that. What I am gonna say, like, look, no matter how you feel about it, I'm telling you now, there's beauty to it. And I'm just gonna try to show you, or I'm just gonna try to stick in it long enough to develop that out and bring people in to support to make that a thing. And win people over. And even if I don't win people over, there's a big group of people that want this for themselves. They're intentional about it. I've met enough people on the continent, living back on the continent, who've now like repatriated or who now went back and lived in an African country, and they kind of highlight where they're intentional. They want this. So even if it's no repatriation program, they're going to be in there anyway. And that's the kind of people you want. Like everybody's not going to go. Again, we're not a monolith,
No.
but there's a lot of people that will go. So focus on the people that will go. Focus on the people who are interested. Because I have so many people that ask me the question about, so how did you do? Like, what is? So those are the people I'm going to pitch these things to, and that I'm going to figure this out for. And not everybody else.
Okay. Okay. Now I get. Now I get. Yeah. So just people that already have this interest already in, okay, I want to see what Africa looks like. I want to, experience the culture for myself, not,
Yeah.
what they say.
Because that's what voluntary repatriation is about. Like, so I
Mhm.
define it as like this intentional and self-directed return or relocation of people of African descent in the diaspora to their ancestral homeland, right? Ancestral region,
Yeah.
like this meaningful location in Africa on the continent, right? These people are willing, intentional, they are self-directed. Like, I'm doing this, they want to relocate. So they're raising their hand for it. So I'm not trying to convince anybody that's not interested. I'm only trying, this is for people who are interested, and there's a lot of people. So yeah.
Okay, so do you now see this voluntary repatriation as a human rights thing? Is it like an human right thing? And if it is so, how can it be codified or protected?
Mm. Yeah, so I do point out, so I will just transfer transparency. I was in a international law course when I was in my PhD program, and I was reading some things about this, and that's how I linked the international law piece to this concept of like
Mm,
repatriation for me. And so I've discussed this whole Universal Declaration of Human Rights, right? So in this universe, in this declaration, right? They talk about the right to leave a country and like this whole support people in repatriating or being able to be in the country that they want to be in, essentially, right? And so you have
mhm,
like this idea of people in their own being able to get access to their own country if they want to, right? People being able to stretch across those divides and be put in those spaces. And it's all about self-determination. It's all about being able to give people that autonomy, that again, that right, that birthright even, but this human right
mhm,
of being able to, being able to support this freedom of movement. And so that's why I kind of added that piece about the human rights
mm,
article, because you support freedom of movement, the right to leave a country, and then this principle to be able to like not be deprived of leaving one country and entering your own country. Like that should be
mhm,
supported at all costs. People should be able to not, they shouldn't be limited. And keep in mind, like I definitely understand there are things that keep people from being able to be home. Like people are literally displaced. There are refugees for a reason. And so I'm not saying to put them in places that are harmful, but when there is a clear path to get back over there, being able to support them back in doing that, right? Them not having to be stuck in the diaspora because there's no pathway to get back. So I think that human rights piece is really important to highlight because that's what it talks about that in Article 12 of this declaration. And so being able to return, raise questions about who is counting, how they identify their own country or what our own country identifies as. And so I think that's really a bigger conversation to be had. But there is a conversation that can be had around that because people should be able to self-determine. They should be able to say, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it, and get support in doing that, and not have barriers from doing it, right? So, take human rights seriously, and then people of African descent should be able to pursue like this meaningful restoration of their ancestral homelands where there's like legitimate connection. So like don't look at it as of, oh, they just want to go take a trip and hang out. It's like, no, there really are
oh,
people who want that real connection and to build a life there. they want that option. Like I'm a dual citizen. Like I have an option to be in, I have that birth of Nigeria and then also in America. And there's definitely a privilege to those things. But I also will say the point being is that I have those rights. I have those options. And I think that they should be afforded to anyone that is interested in this. And I will say this too, it should be again, the point I'm making with the human rights piece is that it shouldn't be hostile. Like you shouldn't create hostile environments around people who want to go and experience their homeland, their ancestral connection, their home, the place where they have a tie to. You should be supporting that. You should encourage that. But it doesn't take away from you as a country or culture to send the people back where they want to be, especially when you, for example, I know I'm speaking of America a lot because I'm in American culture, but America creates a hostile environment for a lot of African Americans. They are just people of African descent in general because they're not seeing you on the street and, throwing a racial epithet at you and saying, I wonder if he's Senegalese or Nigerian. No, they see a black person. And so they're creating hostile environments for black people. And so people would love to explore options to be in a space where they won't be received in that hostile way, in that racist, discriminate way. And so I think that again, that's the whole human rights piece of like give them that freedom, like live, let live, liberty, that kind of thing. So yeah, it definitely has a component of that human rights declaration in it.
Yeah, 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 that makes sense. Because right to live, you can you shouldn't be in a place where you are not comfortable walking around, where someone is looking at you like, "Eh." I
Like,
get that
why are
sometimes.
you
Like,
here? Like you
why are
have
you
to
here?
prove
Why-
your, yeah, prove you that you belong. So like this whole idea of that makes a great point. Like this whole idea of belonging, people having to question belonging, displacement, return, identity.
Mhm.
These are ongoing issues for everybody. And
Yeah.
so I'm focused on the African diaspora because I am of it. And I know that there's a big divide amongst, like I said, African people, African diaspora. And so I think it's so important to be able to center this conversation around how do we make sure people can belong? How do we make sure people who
Mhm.
feel displaced have an option to return? How do we have this conversation and do action steps around identity? Who are we as a people? Because there's
Yeah.
so much disenfranchisement because of slavery, because of colonization. So like I said, if no one is owed this, we are because of the history of how we were like they've broken down our or like tried to dilute our bloodline and how they've
Okay.
tried to wipe out a people, genocide. So yeah, it's for sure. um we this is a ideal thing for our type of people, right? It's yeah, so
Wow. I'm enjoying this conversation. So we're not gonna leave you anytime soon.
no, I'm
All right.
passionate about it. I can talk about it forever.
No. You are actually speaking the minds of passionate Africans like you too. Because sometimes over here in Cairo, when I see some things, I'll be like, I can't be treated this way in my country. Like, why? I can't be treated this way. So there's this longing. I want to go back home. I'm tired. I don't want to stay here anymore. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I
don't make
get.
people like give them an option. I feel like there's a lot of people that would go back, especially if they just
Yeah.
had that ability to move freely and go back and forth if they needed to.
Mhm.
Like, what's that problem with that, right? And so, and then again, improving the conditions of your home is also key to making people make it more tantalizing for
Mm.
like,
Yeah,
you
that's
see what I'm saying? When you
like
talked about Nigerians are complaining about X, Y, and Z thing, or they'll say because they're in it and they know that their improvements need to happen for them to love this place the way they should, or that they deserve to love it. Like they deserve to be able to love their homeland, the way that they should be able to be nationalists about their country. And so I really want that piece to be highlighted that even repatriating people of the diaspora brings in those skilled and diverse perspectives and skills that could rebuild things, that could improve societies, that could help the country to evolve. And so that's why that's a big piece. That's why I say how we feed back into, how we, funnel our skills, our talents, our treasures, our everything back into the continent and back into these African countries. It will really make the difference of the next, generation and the generation after that. So I really think it's
Mhm.
important, like on all levels, to think about this. I'm not talking about just for ancestral connection and social connection and belonging and identity. Those are big pieces because we
Mhm.
literally search our whole lives for that. But from let's say just from a logistical or like a business aspect or like a skill building asset aspect, like capacity building, this is important for that reason. Like release our skilled workers, let them be back in their spaces of their home and develop that out. Like they don't have to be
Mhm.
in the diaspora building up your country, right? Or building up your home that we then don't have a stake in. We don't have, a skin in the game per se, or you won't give us what you owe us per se, right? So let us build that where we belong, right? Where we are more aligned with our folks. So that's all. I'm just pointing out that as a real tangible, practical option for us, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the points you said that the home country, the homeland should also make it should make the country conducive for those people coming in. Because I want to leave a place where just for a country that's, corruption and everything, nothing is working. I want to leave a place that is working to a country that is not, that the system is really not working. So yeah, 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 that's a very good point. So the homeland, Africans, we should try to improve too. And yeah, those Africans in diaspora that have these technical skills and expertise, they should also come back home to use them to develop
Yeah.
the country.
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. And even so tying in that, like, so they have a responsibility. Like, I would really like to see stronger legal and political recognition around this diaspora citizenship pathways, the ancestral based residency programs, these bilateral frameworks that are out here, and this continental like policies that can recognize the like historic displacement of African descent, people of African descent. And so, these countries truly want a diaspora return, they need to protect it with the law, right? They need to not just market it as like tourism and these come home and be with us, but make the law align with what your quaba is. Like that's why I say Ghana is a good example because while they dressed up they did the dressing surface level, they did they ramped up the tourism, but they also have been making strides in, laws and making sure it's protecting what this movement could look like if it, gets the legal and policy kind of like that legitimacy. And not to say that because it doesn't have it, it's not legitimate. It's just to say it for sure seals the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So lastly, what advice would you give a young advocate or NGO that's interested in engaging with repatriation work? What advice would you give?
Hmm. 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 I would say, I would say that again, when I was talking, don't enter this work like romantically, superficially. Even though, like I said, it's fine to have your perspective and experience that inspires you and that grounds you in the work, but don't necessarily impose that on everyone and think that that's going to be the way to like persuade someone to take this kind of thing on or be interested in this kind of thing. So don't lead with that because it becomes superficial. Want to be treated and treat them that way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's really about understanding your target audience, understanding who you, adjusting that, yeah, reframe what you're trying to say and what you're trying to persuade them to do. Reframe it around what their interest is. Like just like if you were doing it with the government or a job, you're trying to align yourself with their interests and their needs and things like that. So I would say
Yeah.
be mindful of that. They can enter this work with some humility, research, and accountability. So, like I said, like you can't just come in it thinking that it's this or it's that. Do the research behind it. Ask the real questions. Talk to the people. Really tap into that target audience. Talk to cultural informants who've experienced it. It's not the same in every country, right? And then it's not even the same over time. Like I was in the Peace Corps 2011 to 2013, and I lived in West Africa from like 2011 to 2015, 2016. So that was 10
Yeah.
years ago. And so it changes. And so think about how things change over time and align with that. Repatriation, like this work with repatriation, it's really about people's histories, their identities, the trauma,
Yeah.
the hopes, the futures. So you got to treat it seriously. Like it's not a joke. Like I might talk about it in a breezy way, but that's because I had time to think through this. I wrote an article about it, but it's
Mhm.
like it's something that you really gotta do the work behind, think through. You can build these interdisciplinary skills. So you need like culture, policy, law, community engagement, communications, conflict resolution, because there will be friction to this. That's why my background is in communications, culture, and conflict. Because
Conflict.
all three of those together are necessary to really tie this in to be sustainable in this kind of work that I do, just social impact in general, but people work. I work with the people. So this work it can be really messy, uh, in the most like it's human services. Human services are messy, and they can be like
Yeah.
that. But then you also have to listen to like diaspora communities and local African communities at the same time. Like, make sure you're not making assumptions. Make sure when I just said that there's
Mm.
sometimes diaspora wars, I'm not just lightly saying that. I mean, I've seen some as recent as a month ago about people going back and forth about something. So it's not like it's not that are supposed to make these assumptions, but you are supposed to check that current state of the situation. Like, don't base it off of like stereotypes or what you heard or who you might have known or that one person you know of from that country or something. Like, no, you really gotta listen to the people and get the most accurate, up to date perspectives out there. So no, not one without the other. You got to have both. You can't just speak to African communities. You got to speak to the diaspora communities and African communities, right? And then if your work is really theory and it doesn't have the people, it's not grounded in the community and the people. If it's not community based, it's gonna fail. So I don't. I went back and got a PhD because I was doing community work. So I had the practice part of it. I'm a practitioner, but I was like, let me get this theory piece so I can be an expert at researcher. So you got to have that researcher piece to back it up to support it, but you also for sure have to have that practical community grounded work because that's to me that's the heart of it, the people. And so if you have all this passion and no structure, it will also fail. So again, theory, practice has to go together.
Yeah. The work
Passion
hand.
has to have structure. It's gonna like I will if I'm attempting this, like my first thing would be let's create an actual community action plan about this. Let's bring together people. Let's have listening sessions. Let's develop this plan together. And my passion can't be the only thing that's gonna make this run. It's gonna be the people that join in and that gonna make this a collective plan. Because again, we're collectivists. African people, African
Yeah.
descent people are collectivists by nature. So we for sure know how to come together. We just don't because the cultures that be are benefiting
Yeah.
off of us being separated. So I think those are all pieces where people just got to be mindful of that and just be hopeful in this, optimistic, because I'm serious. I've been in this work a while now and things like this haven't jumped off, but that doesn't mean I'm just gonna give up. I'm never giving up. I'm never giving up. I swear.
That's
So
the
it's like
spirit.
determination, right? So yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for today's session. Like it was insightful. I gained a lot. Yeah. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah.
And you're doing a beautiful work.
Yeah, no, I
You
appreciate it. And just a last note, like the voluntary repatriation piece is really not just about relocation, it's about restoration. It's
yeah.
about dignity, it's about self-determination, and this possibility of rebuilding relationships across the African diaspora and the continent. Like at the heart of
Mm.
this, I really want to have this
Yeah.
critical role because they can help make the process more humane and more culturally grounded and more sustainable. But it also is about like the big picture is how do we connect these people in a sustainable way, in an effective way? How do we get it done, right? So that's just think through that. And I would love to, come together with like-minded people to develop this out and be on a committee that spearheads like I said, action plan development and listening sessions, and we really could get this funded. Like I write grants, so there's ways
Yeah.
to do this. There's people in the African diaspora that would actually fund it. So don't even think about it just being a thing where the government has to fund it. There are Africans and
I,
African diaspora people that can put their money behind this and support it if that's what they think is beneficial. So you have to think about ways in which it could be a fundable, feasible, sustainable thing. So that's a thought.
yeah. Thank you so much. Mr. Dennis, I don't know if you want to say anything before we finish this session. If you are still here. Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Sure. You are muted. Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you so much. It's just been a lesson from Dr. Teni. I think that has been an amazing work that you've put together, not only for the article, but I believe now from especially what you're doing practically, maybe on the ground where you are, and the Kalalion call, especially within this article, has been one amazing one. Just to highlight, I've actually noted it. The article on the website has so many downloads as well. So that means it is receiving good readership, and I hope that we can have more African diaspora within those regions that are getting touch or getting to read such kind of articles. And I believe from the experiences that you've shared today, we can be able to shape or just to reshape the wheel of thought of many African diaspora that we expect for them to be able to the continent in a different way. I'm just happy that you were able to highlight what is happening in Ghana. I think everyone is happy with what is happening in Ghana. So many other communities within the continent can follow that. But
Sorry, you're not that audible. I don't know. Is it from my part?
Right. I'm hearing, but I'm like, it's hard to. I hope he's not
Okay.
asking me a question because I can't hear it.
No, no, no. It's not
It's
really
okay.
audible.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we really
It
love to hear
it was
you.
breaking up a lot.
now, and now,
Uh-huh.
is it
It's
I
better.
think it's yeah.
Better.
okay? Good. Sorry, I've been using my headphones here. Oh, so I was saying.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. I just tend to drop them. Okay. So I was saying, I mean, we've one thing we've the article has been receiving some very good readership and downloads on the website. That means it's making the impact in regards to the readership that we required or we anticipated. And secondly, I mean,
Hmm.
what Dr. Teni is doing is really amazing in terms of the research that she has done and also in terms of the cloud and quality that she has made to the African diaspora to be able to walk around and see the continent in a different manner in as much as you're born outside the continent. There is a role that we have to play
Yeah.
within the continent. Happy to see that you were able also to highlight the works of Dr. Walter Rodney over there and the work that is being done by Ghana, the Ghanaian government, and I was saying we
Mm.
need so many other African government to be able to follow and lead from that and see what we can be able to keep on doing. Also happy that not only the Cranion call is not only to the NGOs, but also to the content creators Like this guy from Ghana is doing some amazing work with Maya, and I am hoping with the help we can also be able to keep on contributing to the same effort. I mean, with the kind of the journal is also contributing to the same effort, and hopefully we can be able to have so many other channels or activities that can be able to contribute towards these. There's clearly on call on NGOs, the voluntary work that you've been saying. So just happy of the work that is being done and the work that is still there to be done, because there's so much that is still to be done. Because we still have so many
Mhm.
um, people of African descent that still want to do something, but they don't still have that maybe the emotional intelligence that you have, or that connection that you have, knowing that
Mm.
you're the roots from Nigeria. As a mother, I saw this guy is an actor. He's called Edlis Elba. Sometime my back he was saying, I know my roots are from Cameroon, until he was able to do the DNA and they found out he has so many other back. But you see, that we need so many of them to be able to come back and see and put our efforts all together. Because when the efforts are all scattered
Collectively.
everywhere, then there's nothing that we can be able to march forward. So, I mean, all of us need to keep on the rally on call. Uh, let's keep the voices loud enough with what we're doing, with what Dr. Teni is doing, with what Health is doing, with
Thank
what another organization is doing, with what government is of Ghana doing there, and I believe. With that, even this Vision 2063 will not be a big deal with our collective efforts. So,
No,
thank
but I can agree to align all of our forces together.
yes, 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 yes. So, I mean, it's a good,
No,
yeah.
together we are stronger for
Absolutely,
sure.
absolutely. So, I mean, thank you so much, Dr. Teniola, for creating such time to be able to do the research first, and also for creating time this evening from where I'm joining in to be able to share there's in depth. I know you could have been attending the Waterloo Symposium, but this time is also very
Hmm.
impactful and very appreciated for that
you.
matter. So
I appreciate it.
yes, so I mean it's a joy to see you here, and hopefully I mean. From me is now to ask what next, because we should be able to anticipate on what next from you, especially in regards to research, and also we will keep on joining hands all together as an organization to be able to keep on pulling our collective efforts towards this call. So thank you so much, Dr. Teniola, and also our young lady, Ms. Anna has been doing great work, and we greatly appreciate. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you all again for having me. And one of my muses, Malcolm X, has said, "We are not outnumbered. We are for
Mhm,
sure just, out organized."
mhm,
And so we organize around things, and as a collective, we can make whatever happen. We are, you know, we are each other's business. We are each other's like savior in a way. We're going to be able to save and change the, trajectory of our lives together, right? So I'm big, like I said, on unity. We have
mhm,
the numbers, we
mhm.
have the skills, that's why people are, trying to, poach us and bring us to other places.
Yeah.
But we are, the thing that, we are the savior. We're looking for the outcome. We are the people. We're it. So I really want to make sure that people are mindful of that. And like I said, I'm open to people, collective collaborators coming in to supporting with that, they can reach me I'm on all the social media platforms, but Intercultural Communities Project has a website. It's interculturalproject.org. And then also our, social media handles, you can find them on the website as well. And then I'm out here in, just in the general spaces. I do consulting work, but I also do collaborative work and do free consulting and free collaboration because it's really important for me to get the right people in the room and support people with the cause that I care about. And it's not the financial gain or the resource gain. It's really of like, how do we collectively come together and be able to make this a real thing and not just this repatriation piece, but just unity amongst the African diaspora and Africans. I think that that's just literally the key of all this. How do we get together? How do we have those secret meetings for ourselves so that we can develop our community? This has been great. Thanks, Madam Hannah.
Thank you,
Madam.
Dr. Teniola. Ogunjobi.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Agun. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Gumbiade.
Mhm. So I love it. I appreciate this conversation. It's great. Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So that brings us to the end of this beautiful, wonderful session and conversation. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Have some good time. And I don't know if you are attending the symposium, maybe you can as well pass our Ganzo.
I'll go tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll go tomorrow. Like Mr. Ifo Prince, we didn't remember that it was because I thought it said 6 p.m. and I just immediately thought my time. And I was like, oh, it's in the evening and I'll be fine. And I looked back, I was like, no, that's West African time. So that's like midday for me. So I was planning to go by today between like 12 and 4.
Okay.
But since we have this call, I'm like, well, see, I'm contributing to some element of that by doing this thing. I was like, I'd rather do this than miss that because also they're doing it tomorrow. So I'll go tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all. You have a good rest of your day.
Bye.